The majority of this video is actually about a dev Discord Q&A, but there has been some insane new breaking news when it comes to New World. Season 10 is not coming October 28th, it's actually coming October 6th. They're bringing it forward to the surprise of pretty much absolutely everybody. That is big news. They tweeted today, they said, the Season 9 end date and the end of the Summer Medley Fair event has been moved to October 6th. Look forward to more details about what to expect in Season 10 next month in September. That's big. They must be very confident to bring it forward. I doubt they intended to do that from the get-go. So, hey, that's crazy. In this video, I talk about we're going to be doing the raid and stuff like that. We're going to be starting to get together quickly with a group, join the Discord, join the guild, join the gamers. You don't have to be in the guild to play with us, but yeah, join us. I'm going to get on with the dev Q&A right now. It might be a little bit of a non-seamless transition, so take it away, Jay. We have had a new dev Discord Q&A, and I'm not going to lie to you, there's not that much in here, but there is one question that I really hope sets the scene for New World going forward, because I believe in the philosophy that they talk about, and I really want that to be the way that New World goes, and I think it could be massive if New World does it. We're going to go through the questions. It was originally on Discord. Commander Eyes here has converted this to a Reddit post. I'm going to read it here because you can actually see the question and answers. I'm still not a huge fan of this layout, but it's much better than Discord at least. Some of the questions I will kind of like summarize than do the whole thing, and we'll blast through some of them because they're not that interesting. There is a little bit of a hint about the new raid though, like what's the new raid in Season 10? And then they go, a fallen kingdom, a coveted relic, twice the fool, royal champions, demise of a nemesis. Now, combine this with the fact I think we've seen in some of the data mines that the new raid might be in Monarch's Bluff. Kind of sounds like we're going to have this chivalry, medieval stronghold kind of raid potentially. And they do say it's going to be a similar size and similar format to Gorgon. We're going to have 3 boss fights, which, by the way, if you want to come and join in, you can either join in on the Discord and join the New World player section and play with us on Nisa in EU, or you can come and watch me do the new raid when it comes out. I'm going to start doing the old raid just as a little bit of practice, so make sure you come watch me on Twitch. Either way, they're happy with the new raid. They think it's going to be a banger, and I'm pretty confident it'll be a banger as well. Hint of Monarch's Bluff, hint of chivalry. We pretty much know vampires and wills are going to happen, but whether or not the raid will be in that vein, who knows? The next question is basically, are you going to nerf the new Great Sword artifact and Voidblade? Because they're both pretty strong. One of them may be stronger than the other right now, but yeah, it is what it is. The amount of times that they've said they're actually going to nerf the Voidblade is, I think, very high at this point, and they're going to do so in a minor release even more. And then for the Great Sword artifact, technically you could argue that, there's a buff and a nerf here, because what they're going to do is reduce how much melee heavy attack damage it is reduced by, like it's going to reduce that by more, but they're actually going to slightly increase the projectile damage. And some people read this and they're like, I can't believe you would do such a thing. But obviously overall that will be a nerf, right? They're not going to buff it, at least I definitely hope not. They actually use the word slightly increase. So on the balance of things, they're going to buff one thing and then nerf the rest, and the nerf is going to be stronger, if that makes sense. Next question, a bit of a nothing burger. How will gear be upgraded? They mentioned 800 gear scored there in the question. We heard that in the dev video, but here they just say you'll hear more in Season 10, which is when we're going to find out about you'll hear more about Season 10 in September. This next question I thought was a little bit awkwardly worded, but it's basically, are we going to get drops that aren't just gear drops, because we end up getting a shed ton of just like garbage gear and you salvage it? And they don't really address that, but they do say that there's going to be some new resources in Season 10, similar to gem cutting, but we'll have more information on that. This is probably all about how they're going to be doing the perk swapping, because so it sounds like perks are effectively going to be like gems, if you will, and you'll be able to like swap them out, at least some of them, and there'll be a new resource to go along with that. What are you going to do? How are you going to make the old content rewarding and make it that it feels fresh? And then what they say here is allowing players to level up their gear with umbels will be a key part in ensuring that more content is viable across all of the board, and will allow players to hunt for specific gear or build that they want. More details in September, pretty much. Next question is, will you please integrate loadouts for attributes and skills? And please allow us to sell hardy meals to an NPC vendor. It's weird that, right? Because New World doesn't really have a good way of just like raw gold making. A lot of it is like trading and stuff like that. There's not much where you can just Well, I mean, you pretty much can't. You can't just go out into a field full of enemies and blast 1 trillion down and make 1 trillion gold. Like, it just doesn't exist. Probably because of bots. But I mean, I'd rather have bots doing that than I think gathering and crafting. Anyway, what they say here is attributes will be something you can save in your gear sets. No news about skills. Or is there? We'll come on to it in a moment. The next question is a little bit long-winded, but the simple version of it is, would you allow for duplicates of artifacts? Because sometimes you actually want the same artifact, but with a different weapon perk, and not being able to have multiple means you're kind of a little bit limited. And the answer is actually kind of interesting here. They say this is something we are looking into doing with Season 10. However, it's not 100% settled due to some potential limitations. Basically, this might happen, it might not. But with some new sortable tech we have, we want to allow more customizable slots on items for interesting combinations. However, there will still be some perks that are set in stone. So I think normal items are basically just going to have some perks that are like immutable, you can't change, and some that you can just like swap every time. Oh, well, I'd say very easily, but like swap and change at your leisure, apart from there will obviously be a cost, which is that gem cutting resource or whatever it is. Now, that doesn't actually specifically talk about artifacts. It's a little bit of a like weird answer to the question. I don't think artifacts are being removed, but I wonder if artifacts are going to be made like other named items potentially. I don't know. Interesting answer to that question, I think. The next question is, what is the best thing in Season 10? And the answer is really interesting here. We're honestly hoping that Season 10 gels together and adds up to something more than the sum of its parts. PvE players get the most out of it in terms of new content, but we feel that's fair as PvP players have been getting bunches of new things in the last couple of releases. That's true, right? We've had a new Outpost Rush, we've had Capture the Flag, new arena map. I think that's reasonable if you're a PvPer. I'm a PvXer, but there's been so little PvE that I've not really been Xing, if that makes sense. I've just been Ping. That sounds like I have Wii issues, which to be fair, I'm getting older, I kind of do. But they do say that PvPers will have a whole new gear ecosystem to figure out, which, I mean, you're going to need new gear, right? I know a lot of people get a little bit disappointed by this. You're going to need new gear pretty much. Your old gear will be somewhat relevant in that you need it to get the new gear, but you're going to need new gear. Next question, are you going to make consumables in Outpost Rush Infinite like Arena? And they say no, maybe at some point. This next question is very long, and to be honest, possibly not that interesting, but basically, in expeditions, people are speedrunning, they're blasting through, they're not together for a variety of different reasons, that is. And they say, are you going to add a ready up or anything like that? And they just say, we're aware of this problem, but we need to be careful not to penalize normal play. Basically, if I'm honest, I think speedrunning is jank. And New World pretty much incentivizes it, which I don't like. I've always said I think the challenge should just be the challenge of getting through it. Speedrunning should be something for like the elite few, which obviously the leaderboard kind of is, but that should be a challenge away from the majority of players, in my opinion. Here we are. The next one is the big one in my eyes. It's a question that doesn't necessarily seem all that important when you read it, but the answer has a specific line in here that I've been saying for so long, I almost can't believe I've been saying it for that long. But the question was this: is there a plan to make significantly more gear drops bind on equip instead of pick up so we can actually do something with it? Now, the argument here is that the people who do M3s and difficult content, they want to be rewarded for their actions, and the reward basically is getting the item and selling it to another player. Okay, logically that sort of makes sense. However, there's a problem with that, and we'll talk more about it when we come to the answer. And the answer is no, we're going to leverage bind on pickup for most endgame rewards. The reason for this is because we feel that the ability to get everything you want or need from the trading post is actually one of the main ways in which the feeling of there being an endgame is eroded. New World is a game where for a long period of time, and even now to a big extent, you could literally acquire gold from whatever source, legal, not legal, and then effectively get near best in slot gear. That's been a little bit reduced with Frigid Dawn and with artifacts and a few other here and there kind of things, but in the main, gold was super duper strong. You could get gold and you could kit out a character. There's a lot of war players, I don't mean to call them out specifically, who maybe didn't do all of the content and they just did that and then played the wars. There's also a lot of war players who do all the content because they're the most dedicated players as well. But, you know, it was a wide gambit of people. But I fully agree with this. There's also a question of gathering and crafting. I'm not going to get into everything here because this video would then become like 20 minutes long. Well, 20 minutes longer, I should say. But I fully agree with this. For me, gathering and crafting is a bit weird in the sense that, like, if you have a sandbox game and you make it so everything can be gathered and crafted, one, it's not that hard in terms of difficulty to go and get bis by chopping trees and stuff like that. What it is time consuming. Now, some people do enjoy it, but I've never thought that you should be able to get bis by effectively chopping down trees. I kind of feel like this next sentence is the one that sums up what a theme park MMO should be. Sandboxes are a little bit different, but then you need to design a way around RMT, maybe design a mini game when you're going to craft, when you're going to gather so that, bots can't run wild. There's a whole conversation here, which if you want to talk to me again, come and talk to me on stream. I'll happily talk about it. I already did today. But this next line is so important to me. The gear and rewards are meant to be rewards for doing content. I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. The gear and the rewards are meant to be rewards for doing content. New World has been a game where if you had gold, you could just skip the content. And in a semi-theme park-esque game, I know they call it a sandbox or a sand park, whatever the hell it is, but to me it's very, very theme park, but it is what it is. In a theme park MMO or game with theme park gearing, this is so important. The main way that most people should gear should be by doing the content that the game has to offer. Be it dungeons, arenas, raids, open world PvE, open world PvP, whatever it is, you should have to play the game to get the stuff. Now, I know there's an argument against this. Okay, so we're going to go back to having boosts, are we? Are we going to have people paying for raids? I mean, we already have that stuff now. It's just slightly different, right? People go and buy the gold and then buy the raid. People do that now anyway. I think you might as well have it like this. Now, I'm not suggesting get rid of gathering and crafting. I just think that should either be less RMTable or a smaller part of the game than what it currently is. And I love this philosophy. I think this gearing change could be huge for the game. Do you know what? It could also kill the game. If they don't do it right, all the war players, all the people who've already been playing the game for 4 years could get annoyed. But honestly, I think they need to try this probably for Lord of the Rings, and they need to just see if they can make a system that works. It might be a complete failure, but this is the philosophy that I've been saying that they should adopt for ages, and I'm very, very happy to see it here. I won't do a full video on this, but yeah, come and talk to me because there's a lot to say here and I want to move on. They go on to say, though, we do want to support crafting and trading in the economy, so we will continue to do a mix of both. But for Season 10, our intent is to lean more towards bind and pick up so that the gameplay involves doing the endgame gameplay content instead of just farming coin for the trading post. Farming coin, farming your wallet in some dodgy websites. But I love that. I love that question. I love that answer. Well, the question I'm indifferent on, but the answer I'm amazed by. Next question is basically, what are you going to do about the open world? Because we're effectively teleporting around doing various instances and not really, experiencing the open world. And they say the open world is amazing. Please don't let it languish. And what they say is that there will be lots to do, lots of PvE in the open world in Season 10. And they agree that the open world is a key pillar. But we have seen firsthand over the years that many types of content just don't translate well to an open world format, i.e. anything that requires control or tuning on numbers. Now, this is specifically probably talking about bosses and enemies and stuff like that. However, I feel like you could talk about chest runs here. I really don't want to see pointless PvE that is like zero challenge. Now, I know some people like chest runs. I personally think they're absolute dog water. I just don't agree with them. I think fundamentally as a concept they're absolute jank and awful because it's not even that good of a reward. It used to be a good reward, but it's just so easy and so brain dead. I personally don't like them. But they could be saying here, we're going to do more chest runs. I hope they're saying, let's not do chest runs, let's do meaningful open world PvE content. That would be insane. Any plans to add something cool to the free fall zone? No, we think it's a good idea, but we're not going to add a giant boss that drops loot. It would be a bit weird, right? Because if it's a boss, does that mean you need more than one person? But you can't take more than one person to the free fall zone, so it's a bit of a weird one. Next question, I could have been Langy this. I see him asking this question all the time. They say, are you going to add the +10 into the respec button? And yeah, I kind of agree with this question, but their answer now makes perfect sense. The fact that the gear sets are now going to save your attributes in Season 10 effectively means you'll not be respecing directly as often. I suspect 9 times out of 10 now, I won't touch it. They say they might speed it up, but honestly, once we get that, I really don't think it matters either. Are you going to do an inspect? No, it's toxic. Oh, they actually use the word toxicity. I thought I was just paraphrasing. Are we going to get new mount stuff? There will be new mount offerings in Season 10. The rumor, spoiler alert, probably Fox. The other one is like Grunt, but that doesn't make any sense, so I'm just assuming Fox. Are you going to make it so that we can see the dyes in the store because they're like different per material? You could use like the black dye on one thing and it'll look black, and then use it on another thing and it'll look grey. Great suggestion, nothing anytime soon. We agree, we'll keep it in mind. Probably not happening for a long time. This one potentially interesting because it says, any chance we get an option to save multiple skill builds for each weapon? 2 or 3 would be great, so we can have them on tabs as the weapon menu. That would be fantastic, by the way, absolutely. The solution around that is sort of the same with the attribute thing. They were unable to get save mastery for Season 10, which means it is planned and it sounds like it's coming, just not in Season 10. This next question kind of confused me a little bit. Well, not the question, the answer. What is your long-term plan for the endgame content and keeping content at the endgame coming in a way that lends itself to people playing the game more consistently. This has been our primary goal for this year, to prove out what content types we can deliver reliably on a seasonal basis. I used to have an idea that the seasons were going away. I'm completely wrong though, because they mentioned seasons quite a few times. They believe the modes has been very successful, whereas the seasonal servers haven't met their goals. You know what else I would like, by the way, instead of modes? I know they're going to talk about these procedural expeditions in a minute, but I would just like raids more frequently than once per year. Maybe sneak one in every 6 months. I'm just saying, it'd be interesting. They say we're excited about procedural expeditions because we think it could create seasonal content drops for that format, which we can't do with traditional static expeditions. Basically, it sounds like the procedural expedition system is going to get updated every season. Maybe new loot, maybe new rooms, that kind of thing. Interesting. Yeah, we don't know too much about it right now, but it is interesting. And we're going to get new perks and meta shifting new gear. So, okay, we'll see what they do. We'll see if they can actually keep people interested each season with this horizontal progression, with this kind of like slight change in procedural expeditions each time as well. Yeah, okay, cool, we'll see. This next question is basically, you got some bugs, mate. Are you going to fix them? One of them being the leaderboard in Arena just doesn't work half the time. And they say we completely agree that these issues should be prioritized. It's a bit weird because they obviously shouldn't have been prioritized back when there were bigger issues, but now it kind of feels like they just need addressing, right? They say specifically in that issue, it's been hard to track down, but yeah, they're working on it. This is a double whammy of a question. It basically says, is there going to be like an ultimate gathering crafting gear set, you know, like an ultimate trophy? And then the next question is there going to be prestige for the season pass? The worst thing about the season pass is that once you do get to 100, you still get like pinged about it being like, oh, it's unlocked. And you're just like, oh God, why? They say that that would be good quality of life. Now, in my opinion here, I hate the gear sets and I hate trophies. I kind of personally get the feeling that they want to do that, but they also can't do it because it's so ingrained in the system and people would be very annoyed if they did it. So I don't think they got the guts. I think they're garbage systems though, ultimately, no pun intended. I'm going to summarize this, but basically, are you going to do a damage meter in PvE? And the answer is no, we think it would be toxic, I think is the underlying element here, but also it would deprioritize some of the things because people would just focus on maximizing damage and, you know, buffing somebody else. Stuns and all this kind of stuff would go away. It would just be pumping the most damage. Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong, I guess. When our dungeon's going to be updated to provide better armor and weapon rewards, I mean, that's happening in Season 10. There's going to be a big change. And you're also going to get ambush shards from pretty much everything. Are you going to make it easier to search stuff? Because at the minute, like say you want to look for a specific perk, you'll do something like this, Sundering, and then you'll find that actual perk. You do the little closed brackets, by the way. Nice little tip if you don't know that. And it's just a bit of an awkward thing, but if you make it so that the search searches everything, it would slow down the search, so there's no immediate plans to do this. Also, I guess it might mess up with the new system. The next question is about something that was on the roadmap, the Influence Tower Claim Siege system with building. Can you tell us what that is? Now, they go on to say that this is just like exploration. We're thinking about this. Don't get too attached to this idea because things could very easily change. But the idea is to make it so that the influence towers that exist in the open world, you convert them to pre-built combat playgrounds into, well, instead of them being pre-built combat playgrounds, you turn them into free building zones, like the ones that were in Alpha New World a long time ago, which I was in, but I left very quickly because it was PvP and I didn't like it. And then what you do is you fight the races over the things that the people built. Now, in my opinion, that sort of sounds fun, but I mean, does it replace wars? What is that system? Is it just influence races? If it's just influence races, it seems like a whole lot of effort for something that only, I mean, that could be very confusing, like who's going to be able to build, who's not going to be able to build. I mean, it kind of sounds cool, but also sounds like a lot of effort for potentially not much. We'll have to wait and see if that ever makes it into fruition. Next question, are you going to do anything about like 1 trillion craft mods? No, we don't really know how to get rid of this right now. We can't think of a solution. Well, unsure of the solution. There's too many items. I just do nothing in New World and it's pretty stupid. The gear rewards are meant to be rewards for doing content. That philosophy, if that underpins Season 10, New World could be on a very interesting trajectory. It could really hurt the game in some ways because there's a lot of people who possibly like that system because we're all ingrained into that system. But I think it could actually really benefit the game in a big, big way. Let me know your thoughts. Have a most beautiful day. Sorry my green screen was broke halfway through that. The sun's been setting. It's all been chaos and I don't think it really affects it too much, but it's just a bit ugly in it. And it's absolutely boiling in this room, so I'm probably drenched in sweat. Anyway, come and watch me on Twitch. Have a most beautiful day. Goodbye.